Okay, this is Hugh Miller. I'm a research chemist and volunteer director of the International Paleochronology Group. And I'd just like to bring to your attention, first off, how I got started in this. I'm a graduate of Ohio State University, and with some masters, I took some master degree courses in radiochemistry, nuclear physics, and spectroscopic analysis, which kind of led me into this unusual research project that includes paleontology, sedimentology, and radiocarbon dating. And so I want to start off by showing you the Paluxy River excavation projects that have been ongoing since the 1970s. And so let's go show you what other scientists have discovered in the middle of the Paluxy River during a dry spell in 1999. They knew there were many dinosaur footprints they could see under the water of the Paluxy River, Glen Rose, Texas, but they did not know how far it extended. So when they had a real dry spell, I think it was 1999, they discovered a whole trail of dinosaur footprints that extend from about right here all the way down there. There are about like 150 of them. I'm not sure just how many. And there were footprints of other dinosaurs that extended off to the side. And so, why is this so controversial? Well, first of all, this being one of the longest, if not the longest, dinosaur trail in the United States, it certainly is one of the longest, single ones, a single dinosaur, and they kind of walk straight. And so, among these footprints, not shown here, are human-like footprints. And so that Dr. Don Patton, Dr. Carl Ball, and other scientists studied these human footprints when the river was dry, and they showed that these about 10 or 15 footprints that were human actually stepped into the dinosaur footprints to some extent. And some of the good footprints were eventually destroyed by, let's say, the opposition, who did not want the world to know that these footprints were really human, because several of them had very distinct toe tips. So this is the Paluxy River, Glen Rose, Texas, which is about 65 miles southwest of Dallas-Fort Worth. And so I want to show you that because we come over here and we see this footprint. This is an example of probably the best one of the best at least, that were found in the Paluxy River and removed by one of the ranchers. And during the period he needed money, so he found a doctor, as we understand, somewhere down in Houston area that would buy the original limestone footprint that was in the rock. And so he made a mold of the footprint, and then he made a cast, and then of course these casts are available from the Creation Evidence Museum that was started about 1984, 1985 along the Paluxy River. So you can see the distinct toe tips. Well, they're not toe tips, they're toes. And you can see that this is a very unusual specimen in that it is perfect. So it's quite controversial because no one could ever locate the person that it was sold to. So they could study it with, I think they use CT scanning of the more modern ones that were brought to Dr. Carl Ball's attention. Then he ran CT scans, and the CT scans documented the validity of 3 or 4 other footprints that were taken out by the local ranchers long before the research that I will just show you that will pop up magically. And there it is. These footprints you see here, and we'll go zoom in on them in a minute, is from 1982 to 1983. And this is 1983, and there I became interested because of a professor from Penn State University who joined in the first excavation of 1982. And so I heard the lecture in Pittsburgh, and then decided to talk to Carl Ball, and he made an appointment, and we went down, and we chopped off his head here in this picture. This is my youngest, one of my sons, and so we discovered another footprint on this excavation, which is this one. And this is the cast of that excavation, that footprint that you see right here. And this is a better view of it when the sun's shining on it. And this is a view of another mate to this one, found maybe 20 or 30 feet away. And then we go to this excavation. We had very heavy-duty equipment, and that was in 1989, and we found this footprint here. It's also here. And there is the dinosaur footprint, and it pushed mud into the human footprint. So they were just walking together in the same day, or within an hour, or even minutes of each other. And we think that the theory is that this was during the flood of Noah, perhaps towards the end of the flood, and they were coming down to the Paluxy River to get food, as there is evidence of sea life everywhere in the Paluxy River vicinity. And this is just another footprint that was found in 1987. So there are other footprints that were found, and I will just show you quickly. This is another one. It's not very visible, but there are big toe, next toe, next toe, next toe, next toe. So it's a shallow, very shallow. The human footprints, the people that made them are not as heavy as the dinosaurs, so their footprints are not near as deep as you saw in the original picture in the Paluxy River, which I had showed you earlier over here. These are very, very deep, 2 to 3 inches, whereas the human ones are only about a half an inch to less than that. And this is a cast of the first footprint that we found, which is shown here. And that's this one right here. The contrast is not as good, but it's about a half an inch thick, deep, compared to this one, which is only about 1/8 of an inch deep. Okay? So depending on the mud, when they stepped into it, whether they could make a deep impression or not. And so we have footprints that, in case of this one, there were eventually a series of 5 footprints, this being the best one. And in the case of this one here, which we find most interesting because, and I'll reach over here and get this book by our paleontologist, Joe Taylor of Crosbyton, Texas, who has his own museum. And here, this is what you call a giant footprint. We call Carl Ball called a max. And when we were down there in 1983 on the edge of the Paluxy River, like 8 feet high, in the second stratum rather, this footprint we saw along with its mates. So there was a series of footprints, 5 footprints, this being the best one. And why does it have this curvature here? We think because there was a series of dinosaur footprints on the McFall ledge, 8 feet up, or 5 or 6 strata up, and so it suddenly, as called precautionary, it made a steep left turn. This being a right footprint. This being the big toe, so forth. And they kind of slide in here of each toe. So he planted his foot down in order to avoid having a dinosaur run into him. But he was probably 12 to 14 feet high. And so we saw this a week after it had been excavated. And we were dumbfounded. We thought, how can this be? Just like when the evolutionists came to see our data in 2011 at the American Geophysical Union to show them our radiocarbon date ages, he said, how can this be? So we were skeptics back then, and particularly of this footprint. Then we found one, which I showed you earlier, 11-inch one, and so we were convinced that something is here. So we kept following up through the years to 1989, and including 1987, 1988, 1989, and we had another team of scientists that tried to follow the footprints into the across the river, because they saw some eroded ones in the middle of the river. These are human footprints, and unfortunately, they only found one. It was a lead-in footprint, and just the back part of the footprint eroded, but they found the toe tips that was stepped within an inch or two of the heel of a dinosaur footprint. So this is really a fun area to do research, and we pray that that they can continue to do this in other areas. Maybe go down to another strata, okay, and see if there's any more footprints. And so we actually did that in 2017. We got permission of the landowner to proceed along the McFall ledge, 8 to 10 feet above the river, and we found more dinosaur footprints. So they were making footprints on every level, down to and including the river bottom, and how much more beyond that, who knows. But they were in a survival mode, trying to escape probably twice daily tides of mud and silt coming into the area, where they gather food between the tides and then head for the hills, something like that. This is Hugh Miller again, and this time, this particular section, we're going to be talking about radiocarbon dating of dinosaur bones and other fossils. And so I'd like to show you just one main thing, why is carbon-14 used and how is it used and so forth. And I refer you to this particular, it's on the internet, I've forgotten where we got it, but first of all, you have cosmic radiation coming into the earth, and the cosmic rays enter the Earth's atmosphere and collide with an atom, creating an energetic neutron. And the neutron collides with a nitrogen atom, a nitrogen-14 molecule that has 7 protons, 7 neutrons, turns into carbon-14 atom. So nitrogen-14 is captured by a neutron, and then it goes into carbon-14. The carbon-14, well, first of all, nitrogen emits a proton, but that's immaterial for what we're trying to explain to you. The plants absorb carbon dioxide, and carbon dioxide is CO2. And so plants incorporate carbon-14 through photosynthesis, which you biologists probably out there who've taken courses in biology know about. And then animals and people eat the plants and take in carbon-14. And following the death and burial, wood and bones lose carbon-14, as if on it changes to nitrogen-14 again by beta decay. So that's basically how carbon-14 was discovered, and the inventor of the procedure was awarded a Nobel Prize. And so it's very important to know this background. So scientists who did not believe in evolution started using carbon-14 dating back about 1978. And in 1979, in their publication called Creation Research Science Quarterly, they published a carbon date that they obtained from one of the universities on the West Coast of a piece of wood that was embedded in the Paluxy River, Glenrose, Texas. And this wood had been burnt, and it was calcified, and some of it was visibly burnt. So they carbon-14 dated, and it came out to be 12,800 years. So who knows whether that was true or not. The laboratories performed very careful decontamination procedures, and so it should have been pure carbon-14 that came out of there, intrinsic carbon-14. So that started the whole process of, well, maybe we could use this to see if carbon-14 can be used to date other items. So Carl Ball of the Creation Evidence Museum found a Acrocanthosaurus skeleton 2 miles above the river where fossil human and dinosaur footprints have been found. And it was the landowner allowed him to remove the dinosaur bones, and it was intact except it lost its head and its tail and its lower limbs. But they did find the rib cage, and the femur bones. Okay, and this is an Acrocanthosaurus, which is similar to a T-Rex, let's say a distant cousin, but a mean-looking 2-legged critter, if you ever saw one. And the first discoverer of the Acrocanthosaurus was found in Oklahoma. And so this was the second one, or maybe the third one that was discovered, only it was down south of Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas, about 65 miles. Okay, and so Carl Ball got the idea, well, let's carbon-14 date the bone. So he sent it to a local university in Ohio, and they sent it to a laboratory, and it came back with ages of 32,000 years. And I'll show you the tabulation that we have here. And this is the Acrocanthosaurus. He got 32,100 Well, actually, he obtained a date of 36,000 years with a conventional beta decay equipment in the company now called Geocrime in Massachusetts, Cambridge, Massachusetts. And we repeated the experiment when he gave us some more bones, and we got 32,400. And then we learned that the optimum equipment to use would be a accelerated mass spectrometer. So we started that procedure. And this one we obtained at 23,760 plus or minus 270 years before the present. And so and you can't get carbon-14 ages on the existing equipment beyond about 60,000 years. So we're well within the range of carbon-14 dating. That is indisputable. And there are other mammals like mammoths, mastodons, saber-toothed tigers, so forth, that are found in the same ages. Matter of fact, some mammoths, like in Russia, have ages upwards to 50-some thousand years. But are these the real years? No, they're not. And we try to explain that as we go along or at the end of the presentation. But anyway, we got also dates of 3 different laboratories. Here's another date, 29,390, 30,640, and let's see, then we get it to an Allosaurus, and this is most interesting because its age is estimated by conventional scientific community at 150 million years. Yet our age for this Acrocanthosaurus was essentially the same age as for the the age for the Allosaurus. Let's correct that. The age for the Allosaurus was the same age essentially as the age for the Acrocanthosaurus that was supposed to be 110 million years. Ran on the Earth 110 million years ago, which footprints are found along the Paluxy River in Glen Rose, Texas. A profundity of footprints. There were like 80 fossil human footprints that were found on the McFall Ledge, 15 to 30 in the middle of the river, 8 feet down. And so the evidence is extensive that there is no millions of years between man and dinosaurs. And besides that, and I want to go back and show you the soft tissue and collagen that are found in some dinosaurs. So over here is the poster session that we were allowed to give. It was approved by the Committee of the of the Asiatic Oceania Geophysics Society, and this is the abstract number, and this is the abstract. I'd like you to just take a moment and read that, and then down below here are the pictures in color of the various soft tissues that were found. It's on the internet. You can look under soft tissue, and Mary Schweitzer, and she has shown that in a T-Rex from Montana, she was able to obtain soft tissue after dissolving the calcium carbonate in a organic acid over a week or two at high temperatures, upwards to maybe 180 degrees Fahrenheit. I would have to check that in her publication of 2005 in Science magazine, a very technical journal. So, soft tissue, dinosaur depictions worldwide, and the fossil human and dinosaur footprints together. make a very strong argument that man and dinosaur lived together, and therefore there doesn't appear to be any evolution whatsoever. Man was created, as it says in Genesis of the Bible. So the folks who, scientists who discredit Genesis of the Bible, better re-examine the evidence of modern scientific studies, including sedimentology. The sedimentology shows that the soils or the rocks that were deposited as mud back thousands of years ago were so deposited, not many millions. The geologic column, for instance, is 600 million years old, supposedly. But the Russians and a gentleman by the name of Guy Berthaud of France has many technical papers in Russia, France, and even one research was done in the United States to show that the rock strata, when it was mud, turned to rock within a few days, just like concrete in your driveway can be changed quickly. So that's the abstract. I'm not going to read it to you. And so this is the soft tissue. And we put in this abstract, in this poster session that we were allowed to present in a 2,000 person annual meeting of the Asiatic Oceania Geophysics Society. And here you can see Lower Cretaceous Triceratops. The AMS collagen, we found collagen in it. Only 0.35%, but we found collagen, like is shown here. This is collagen. And so the age, we did two dates, 30,890 for the collagen, and we got another date using the conventional method at 33,830. So what we do in order to confirm or discredit our own data, we carbon-14 date the collagen if we find any, which is somewhat rare, but we do find it. We date the collagen and we date the carbon in the bioapatite of the bones to verify it. And we think that this is reproducible. We've reproduced this for many different dinosaurs that you see in this particular tabulation. This is the years. And if you scroll down here, you'll see various years all around 30, in the 25,000 range to 40,000. And keeping in mind that the maximum you can get is 50 to 60,000 years on a carbon-14 dating. And so as you scroll down, you'll see, now this one here is the youngest one. It was 22,020 years, plus or minus 50 years. That's the error that you might call the error. You can't get the exact date. And that was for a, and I don't pronounce this right, but I like to call it a Psittacosaurus. It's easy, it comes out easier. Okay? And it had an age of 22,000. Let's see what this one is. Oh, this is a mosasaur from Europe. It was 24,600. Of course, the people who discovered that age did it by accident. They very kindly reported it, but thought that it was contamination, even though they could not find and did not look thoroughly for the contamination. They kind of ruled it out and said, how can this be? But our data agree with their date, the 24,600. So at any rate, I think I will stop here. Oh, this. Oh, Go ahead. Okay. And so one of the things we do, just started doing ourselves back in 2008, was to core through bones using an apparatus like this, or very crudely, we did this in 2008 by just hammering away at a drill with it, and we got 3 or 4 core samples. And then we tested them for their dates through a triceratops, and we obtained no carbon whatsoever. Okay, no carbon whatsoever. Why was that? That was because there was a crack next to the core area, and that crack had probably allowed water to get in and take out the inside of the bone, so we just got powder. Well, when we core, just recently, we actually got a core sample. And you can see the carbonaceous material that is a residue of the bone. Inside the bone, it stands out. And so this is a beautiful piece of equipment. This part here is designed, you can buy it on the internet, and then you put the drill up here, and this is the hole that we just drilled out the other day. Okay, and we have that core sample, and we use the dry process. We don't use moisture, and the temperature does not get high enough to destroy any collagen. At least that's our theory. And so far, we can touch the core right here, and the temperature, you can hold your fingers on it, so it can't be more than 110 degrees. So we're not disturbed about any damage to the collagen. And it takes about a half an hour to 45 minutes to actually drill a core. And the designer of this, the final equipment here, was a fellow named Pedro, and he's from Texas, and where else? He's anybody who does research, honestly, comes from Texas, it seems, or Arizona. All right. And Ohio, too. You know, I'm from Columbus, Ohio State University, but they won't claim me, believe me. They will not claim me, I'm sure of that. But besides the point, this is a lot of fun, and our Lord has blessed us in these discoveries, and we have to give Him the credit. And so with that, I'll end this episode. We want to give you an idea of a carbon-14 dating report. We have several dozen in my files, and we'll just show you this one here because it is very important. And here it is. It's a carbon-14 dating from Geochron. That's a laboratory in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And they sent this sample out to the University of Georgia because it dealt with carbon-14 dating of collagen on the accelerated mass spectrometer. And so, as you see here, in the red area is a sample, a number PT1. P stands for paleo, T for triceratops. Triceratops is, I think, one of everybody's favorite dinosaurs. It lived about 65 to 70 million years ago, allegedly. And our radiocarbon dates, as you will see here, if I can point to it, 30,890 plus or minus 200 years before the present. BP stands for before the present. Then the description is sample of bone, and then the pre-treatment You can see the pre-treatment. The bone sample was thoroughly cleaned by repeated washing in distilled water under ultrasound to remove dirt and foreign materials. Sample was then crushed to fragments of about 1 millimeter and reacted with 1 normal hydrochloric acid under vacuum to dissolve apatite and other minerals. The insoluble residue remaining after apatite dissolutions was filtered and washed. The precipitate was then boiled for 8 hours in slightly acid pH 3 to 4 distilled water to stabilize any collagen present. And they discovered 0.35% collagen. The broth was filtered through fiberglass, and the filtrate was evaporated to dryness to recover collagen, and rootless humic acids and other contaminants would have been removed by filter and discarded. The recovered bone collagen was combusted, and the carbon dioxide was recovered for the analysis. Now, that's for the Triceratops, which we found 0.35% collagen. And now this one is sample. P stands for paleo, AC stands for the Acrocanthosaurus, and that was excavated August 1984 along the Paluxy River, Glen Rose, Texas, in the Glen Rose Cretaceous Formation, allegedly over 100 million years old, around 110, and it was assumed by evolutionary reckoning, so never carbon-14 dated because of the above false assumptions. So the University of Georgia, this is their report, dated October 27, 2010, and we obtained a carbon-14 date of 29,690 plus or minus 90, and the bulk organic material was 30,640 plus or minus 90. Concordant ages. Now this is very, very important because this is what we've done with every dinosaur bone fragment, almost everyone. And we got concordant ages where they use the bulk organic material, the collagen, and the bioapatite. The carbon in the bioapatite, which is primarily phosphates. So, what can we say? They did the dating. Okay, we supplied the bones, which are confirmed by other scientists to be valid, Triceratops and Acrocanthosaurus. This is just 2 of 10 different dinosaur bones. This is collected from 1990 on until the present time. Now, I want to point out that the University of Georgia did a marvelous job. We appreciate their efforts. Unfortunately, they had a new director in 2014, and he found out that we have been radiocarbon dating dinosaur bones at his facility, and so he decided that we were anti-science, and he refused to accept any more samples from us. So what can we say? You know, the organizations like the American Geophysics Union allowed us to speak there in to rather give a poster presentation using an abstract in 2014, December 2014, and in 2015 and 2012 the Asiatic Oceania Geophysics Society allowed us to give our abstract. So some secular scientist committees allow us to present our data, others do not. It's going to take a while to convince them that it's necessary to have a, shall we say, international conference should be convened to promote new research using paleohydraulic, mineralogical and radiocarbon dating methods. They need to confirm this data. We have shown that by radiocarbon dating, by pointing out that Mary Schweitzer discovered soft tissue in some bones, and we have fossil human and dinosaur footprints together. They need to recognize this, because they are deceiving themselves and the public, and particularly our students, okay, to believe in a fairy tale. We believe it is a fairy tale because many reasons we've already pointed out, and we want to show one other thing besides dinosaur footprints, or dinosaur carbon-14 ages. We also have, by another group, has done studies of coal. And I want to show you the dates for coal. Okay, this is coal samples, name the coal seams in different areas of the United States, from the East Coast to the West Coast. These are the states in which the coal samples were taken: Texas, North Dakota, Montana, Utah, Arizona, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, and Illinois. And they've obtained ages. Now, I'm going to point out to you that this is a technicality. This is called the PMC value, and when they translate into ages, the ages range from about 45,000 years to roughly 53,000 years. So there, it's the upper range of the carbon-14 dating equipment. And this was done by a specialty outfit that had a more sensitive accelerated mass spectrometer than possibly the ones we used, because they also radiocarbon dated diamonds from South Africa. And the dates of the diamonds from South Africa were in the range of about 55,000 or 60,000 years to 65,000 years. And so another group, radiocarbon dated dinosaur bones, on their really highly specialized equipment, and obtained ages in the range of let's see, it was 65,000 to 80,000 years on their advanced equipment, accelerated mass spectrometer equipment. And so, and in fact, one diamond, they broke it into pieces, and the range for that diamond was like 65 to 68,000 years for half a dozen particles, I think, that they dated. And so, you know, it's consistent. The coordination, concordant ages are there. So something needs to be done in the secular scientific community to either confirm or reject all these conflicting anomalies that exist within the scientific community, of which we are a part of it, whether they like it or not. And so, and by the way, we talked about asteroids previously, and asteroids are a major problem for the Earth. There are millions of them out there, and although the space is huge, it's conceivable that one may have our name on it. And there have been 180 asteroids that have hit the Earth, or comets, asteroids or comets. And quickly look at this chart right here, and this is a chart of the Earth with North America and South America right here, and Europe and Asia and Australia right here. And you can see, for instance, Australia has about 20 impact craters, and then you have a bunch of them right here, and the United States is covered by them. And these are the ones that have been discovered. And so we have a problem with asteroids. But even more significantly, we have a problem with something even more dangerous, which is an electromagnetic pulse that may come from our sun or from an enemy that could drop a nuclear bomb in the upper atmosphere to cause an electromagnetic pulse. And that pulse would send surges of electricity through our ancient grid system, electrical grid system, that are interconnected with Canada and so forth, and we could have a blackout that could not be repaired for many, many months. And so this would indicate that EMPs, electromagnetic pulses, are extremely dangerous. As one hit the Earth, a very powerful one, in 1859, right before our Civil War. And it wrecked the only electronic stuff that was working at the time. That was Morse code equipment. And some of them even caught fire. You can go on the internet and find out about the history of that particular event. A very terrible event if it had happened nowadays, but everything is electrified with our outmoded electric grids. They need to be hardened by powerful surge protectors like we have on our community, on our computers, and on our and I guess you call it Faraday cages that my friend who is recording this, Pedro, is somewhat of an expert on that particular situation. There's been lots of discussions among religious community whether Genesis of the Bible is reality, whether it's history, or whether it is allegory, and so forth. I'd like to end this little program with showing you that what the early church fathers said, and relate that to the science, which we think it's obvious to us that science has caught up with Genesis and the early church fathers and Christ and our Jewish brethren who have recorded Genesis for us. So with that in mind, I would like to have you read, as I read, the thoughts of St. Basil the Great, who said, "The philosophers of Greece have made much ado to explain nature, and not one of their systems has remained firm and unshaken, each being overturned by its successor. It is vain to refute them. They are sufficient in themselves to destroy one another. Some had recourse to material principles and attributed the origin of the universe to the elements of the world. Others imagined that atoms and indivisible bodies, molecules, and ducts form by their union the nature of the visible world." Does that sound like evolution? I think it does. And atoms reuniting or separating produce births and deaths, and the most durable bodies only owe their existence, their consistency, to the strength of their mutual adhesion. Deceived by their inherent atheism, it appeared to them that nothing governed or ruled the universe, and that was all was given up to chance. Now, this is another one of the church fathers. This is from 370 A.D. by Saint Basil the Great. He really understood what was going on then, and it is nothing new today. The mythology of the Greeks and the Romans in their time period, what even their rulers apparently believed in, and forced them to form shrines and so forth to these mythological gods. We now have the same thing in our estimation. We have the same type of mythology, only with long ages put into the place, similar to what the Greeks and Romans, they had long ages. And now we're into the billions of years because of the Big Bang and so forth. So what is correct? Well, science needs to go back and form an international conference to convene to promote new research using paleohydraulic, mineralogical, and radiocarbon dating methods to end this huge controversy that one or the other is deceiving us. And from my perspective and what I've shown you in these presentations, we are being deceived. So this fellow here says no one can rightly say that things that pertain to the 6 days of creation were symbolic. So clergy better wake up. And of course this is just another, I won't talk about them, but there are 7 saints who have given their opinion of 7 days of creation. And you can find that probably on the internet also. And so I just want to end to this whole conference, this whole presentation, by pointing out, like I just did, the need, from a scientific perspective, they need to move ahead and form an international group and study this whole problem of origins, because there's so much deception and misunderstanding, and the confusion has to be eliminated. All right? And from a philosophical point of view, the clergy must go back and somehow realize that the church fathers knew more than them. Otherwise, pride cometh before the fall.